All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is our time and effort tutorial from the phone for YTL Training Programs as 21st Century Time and Effort Sheets. As y'all know, these are our virtual time sheets that we'll be using going forward. And this video is going to cover the basics of how to fill it out and how to make sure everything is in line if you complete it on the phone. I made a laptop one as well, and the link to that will be in the description of the video. First place we're going to start is making sure your identifiable information is in place. So in other words, right here in cell A2, please make sure your name is right here, as well as your section at the bottom, rows 32 to 35 in this template. Make sure your name, social, address, and position are correct. The next thing will be naming your sheets based on biweekly cycles. As y'all know, we get paid biweekly, and I'll turn my phone so you can see it better. This is how we name our time frames. We use the first Monday and the very last Friday of that 2-week cycle. So this is 9/16 to 9/27 because this first Monday here is 9/16 and this last Friday is 9/27. So I'll have a list of all of this as well. And this one is an upcoming one, so we won't have to worry about that one. Please note that these two over here, 8:19 to 8:30, and 9:10 to 9:13, those are two additional time frames. We initially started with the 9:16 to 9:27 time frame here, but due to adjustments we made to our budget, we're now going to be including those. So I'll make sure I work with everyone as needed to ensure our time and effort is caught up, because that was a while ago, and there are ways to account for what we did even that far back because we have record of the things we discussed or went over on those days. One tip I have is ordering your sheets from earliest to latest. So you know the older ones are right here, and then the latest one will be right here. The reason for that being, the more you work, the more timesheets you accumulate, it'll be right here, and it's just easier versus you having to scroll and scroll and scroll the more you work. So just consider that. But again, that's not mandatory. Again, all your payroll time frames are listed here. And the next thing we're going to be covering is making sure your time is formatted correctly. So highlighted in yellow up here, I have some start and stop times. Please ensure you use the colon, because if you don't, if you notice, it's going to mess up your gross hours, because all of this is a formula in the gross hours column, column D. So if I just put 600 for 6 o'clock, the formula won't capture that. If I put 6.00, it will mess up as well. So please ensure you use the colon. If your colons are correct, like for example on here, let me go to the other one. If all of your colons are correct and the gross hours are still off, like in this case, I will be going in and I will make that right. I'll make sure I get all the formulas in line. So going back to the cells, these are the ones you should and shouldn't touch. The main ones to focus on, aside from making sure your weeks are updated here, always do this Monday through Friday. Aside from this, focus on the start column, stop column, employee initials, and time and effort. That's it. Again, start and stop, your employee initials, time and effort. Because every time you make a new sheet or duplicate a sheet, which we'll touch on later, you should always update the weeks right here for Monday and Friday of that week. Another key thing to consider is, or be aware of, is adjusting your cells so you capture all the words, and that's called wrapping the text. So this will really apply to column F right here. If you see right here in cell F8, I have more words than are actually being shown. So what I would do is, I prefer, here's a shortcut. You can select the letter F up here, up top, and it'll select this whole column. And you hit the letter A at the top of the menu, and then you hit the cell side right here, and then boom, you turn on wrap text. And when you clear it out, now it'll be fully wrapped, and you can see all of it, all the words captured in the cell. That's going to be important because as we submit for reimbursement, our grantees are not going to have this editable version. They're going to see the PDF or they're going to see a printout. So all of your time and effort, all the description of what you've done for that day needs to be able to be seen. So again, you can either do that column by column, or you can just select column F, which is easier, and wrap the text. Next thing to go over is duplicating and deleting sheets. So this will come into play when there's a new time frame. Instead of you starting from scratch or starting blank, you could just duplicate a sheet and clear everything out. Here's what I mean by that. Focusing on this one, if I just hit the 916 to 927 tab, I have a few options here. If I hit duplicate, it's gonna make one. And if I hit delete, of course, it'll delete that sheet. So this is your main button right here. If you go down and hit this down arrow, these are your options. So I'll hit duplicate. And now if you notice, I'm on the copy of tab. All I would do is rename this to the current time frame. Let's say I didn't have this 9:30 to 10:11. I would rename this current one. If I hit rename, now I can name it 9:30 to 10:11. And it wouldn't let me do it on this example because I already have a sheet. But that's the gist of it. And another thing you would be aware of is making sure your weeks are updated here, again, as we talked about. And all you would do over here, you would just clear this stuff out. You can select it all at once. You can hit clear, and then you do the same for your time and effort. And again, this is what it will look like to duplicate a sheet so you can start fresh. Of course, your colors won't be on here. They're colored because this is a tutorial. So going back to the 916, actually, I'll delete this. Let me back up. Again, you hit this down arrow and you hit delete, and it's going to ask you to confirm. Okay, so the next thing will be going over sufficient time and effort versus time and effort that's not sufficient. What I have here in green is sufficient. It doesn't have to be a dissertation. Again, just 3 to 5 basic sentences covering what you did. If it's too bland, if it's too vague, then it will not be accepted. It won't be sufficient. So gave out snacks, helped with homework, cleaned up. That's fine. You actually did that, but add a little more detail. So again, everyone's on the same page and you capture the gist of what you did for that day. So again, the red is an example of insufficient. Green is sufficient. One thing I like to do to keep up if I'm getting behind, I like to make little talking points or a rough draft, like I did in this cell. And all I would do is go back later and actually draw this out into 3 to 5 basic sentences. So instead of what I have right here, I may say gave snack to scholars in 4-5, conducted homework with scholars in 3-5, focusing on math, did an SEL activity in the field about mindfulness and body boundaries, performed space reset for a weekend event, and then supervised scholars at the end of the day for dismissal. That way, you keep in line and you don't have to worry about recalling what you did. So let's say you do the same thing or a lot of the same job functions every day. That's fine. Copying and pasting your time and effort, that's okay as long as it's accurate. And if you ever need to add to the copy and pasted section, just do that as necessary. So if I did the same thing on these 2 days, but on this day right here, I did a little more, I would just add that to the end. So next would be bringing data from another tab or a separate file altogether into one central doc. As you see, I have all of the timesheets on here. But for example, this is the 1014 to 1025 sheet, but I actually have time and effort for this week, 923 to 927. So if I need to get that over, I would just copy and paste the exact cells that I need. So for example, I would go from Monday, or actually let's go from A12. Start over. All right, A12, and we're gonna select all of this over here. And again, you just click and drag to select. I'm gonna go up a little bit. All right, I have it selected. Now I'm gonna just tap it, and then I hit copy. I hit the check mark at the top left, so it's out of the way, and then I go back to 916 to 927. Now, if you notice, right now it's blank. And when I say pay attention to the exact cells, I mean make sure you paste over the exact cells that you copied on the other sheet. So this is A12, and we're also going to drag this over as well. So now we have the same cells copied. I would tap it again and hit paste. Now everything is in position. Now everything is in line for this correct week for the time frame. And this will work as well if you have a whole entire separate Google sheet. I was not clear when I was explaining the difference between duplicating a sheet and making a copy. So if you have a different time sheet, a separate file for every week, all of those will need to be consolidated into one comprehensive sheet like this one. But again, you just copy and paste it, and you will go to the file that you need or the sheet that you need and paste over, and it'll work. If you need any more clarity on that, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will be at the end of this video as well. So let's say there was a week that you didn't work. Documentation is still required for that. Now, of course, you wouldn't do time and effort, but we still have to initial to account for that week. So for example, in this one, 9:30 to 10:11, I put out all week due to Hurricane Helene. So of course your hours will be zeroed out. You would still need to initial, and then again, you would sign at the bottom. Please initial by everything that has a number beside it. Again, even 0 hours, and that'll be column E. I have some common job duties to describe for time and effort that you may not recall. That's going to be in the description of the video, and I'm going to later put it on this tab called tips right here. Another key thing to be cognizant of is you do not have to use military time. That's a format that I tend to use out of habit, but that is not required. So if you see any military time on your template and you'd like me to switch that, just let me know. That is not a problem. Another thing to pay attention to is the admin notes section. And again, if you notice, I have the text bleeding through into column or rows H, column H, I, and J. And again, to wrap that, I would just hit the letter A, and I would turn on wrap text. So please do not clock in early without having a conversation with me ahead of time, just so we're on the same page. I appreciate that. So you're going to sign these bi-weekly along with your supervisor. So if you notice these cursive signatures at the bottom, they're just a placeholder. When I actually print these out, they'll be blank, and they'll be signed by yourself and your supervisor. And again, all the admin notes will be from me. If there are any feedback, any praise, anything worth mentioning, I will type something in here, and I'll either tag you in it by your email, or I'll sign the task to you, and it'll go like that. Few final comments. Time and effort is now due at the end of the week going forward, and I'm going to check every Monday to review the prior week. So for example, today is Thursday, so this current week's time and effort will be due Friday by the end of your shift. And again, if you need any support, please feel free to reach out to me in person or virtually. And while we're at it, we're going to correct these times so you can see how the formula fixes itself on here. So we take that out. Okay, boom. Now we corrected to 4. This says 6.00. We're going to be more specific. And boom. So that is time and effort in a nutshell. Here's my contact information if you ever need to reach out to me. Feel free to take a screenshot or just save this video. And I hope you enjoy your day.